They said he shouted my name before the sea swallowed the wreck. I wasn't there to hear it. By the time the rescue chopper found me, I'd been adrift for 7 hours, soaked in jet fuel, eyes scorched by salt, clutching a useless throttle like it could still bring him home. When the engine burst midair, I didn't die. Captain Ruiz did. They called me a miracle. But every time someone said, "You survived," I heard, "He didn't because of you." That's the thing about guilt. It doesn't fade with metals. It corrodes them. My name is Avery Quinn, age 42, and for 10 years, I've lived with the sound of that engine in my dreams. Until the day I walked into a hangar full of recruits in San Diego, sunlight glinting off chrome wings, and heard someone mutter, "Guess they'll let anyone teach now." The Coastal Defense Command compound stretched along the bay, its motto painted across a steel arch, "Precision before pride." I entered the briefing room at 7:30 sharp. 12 cadets turned, young, confident, unscarred. One with a southern drawl leaned back and grinned. "You sure you're in the right room, ma'am? Veterans therapy meets down the hall." Laughter followed, easy and cruel. I said nothing. There's a kind of silence that commands more than shouting ever could. Then the door opened. A tall man in dress blues stepped in, Captain Dane Mercer, the base commander. His gaze swept the room, landed on me, and froze. He straightened, hand raised in a crisp salute. "Permission to speak freely, ma'am. Welcome back, Phoenix 1. The laughter stopped cold. Chairs squeaked, eyes widened. Someone whispered the call sign like a ghost story. I returned the salute. My palms still bore faint scars beneath the gloves. The metal of the badge on my chest felt heavier than before. They didn't know what Phoenix 1 meant. The fire over the Pacific. The man who didn't make it out. The storm that rewrote my life. After the session, Mercer caught me by the tarmac. "Didn't think I'd see you flying again," he said quietly. "Neither did I answered. Behind him, the morning sun hid a weathered sign. "Skill saves lives. Humility keeps them." For the first time in a decade, I almost smiled. Safety, I thought, is usually built on someone else's silence. That afternoon, I combed through the diagnostics. Captain Mercer's name appeared at the bottom of the authorization list, approving the same navigation module that had malfunctioned 10 years ago. That night, an email slipped into my inbox. Subject: "Welcome back from the ashes." I froze. 10 years earlier, the sky over the South China Sea had burned like liquid copper. I was 29, flying an Artemis 9 patrol bird, call sign Phoenix 1. Tracer fire sliced through cloud banks as our rescue mission went sideways. Retrieve stranded personnel. Return before the typhoon closed the corridor. It should have been routine. It never is. A missile clipped our stabilizer. The fuselage bloomed into flame. My co-pilot, Eli Navarro, never raised his voice, even as alarms screamed. "Keep her steady, Quinn. Get them out." I did. For 3 civilians. Then came the flash, the roar, the fall. When I woke, salt burned my lungs, and the sea reeked of kerosene. Eli was gone. They called me the miracle pilot, but every medal felt like theft. His dog tag, half melted, half mine, weighed heavier than any commendation. I left the service the next month. For 10 years, I lived quietly in Monterey, working coastal rescue logistics, pretending the sky didn't call my name. Then came the letter from the Aerospace Safety Directorate, asking me to return as an instructor. I almost said no, until I saw the program name, Skyguard Renewal Initiative. The same aircraft line, the same system that killed Eli. If I stayed silent, someone else would burn for the same oversight. That's how I found Mercer's digital signature buried in old maintenance archives. He'd signed off on the same flawed module, then climbed the ranks untouched. Now, under his command, cadets joked about ghosts in the cockpit. Let them laugh. I had work to do. During a simulator test, the thermal gauge spiked, but no warning light appeared. I killed the system, demanded the logs. No one moved. That night, in the hangar's shadows, a young tech named Lena Caro approached me. Her hands trembled. "They disabled the alert system," she whispered. "Said it saved money." I stared at her. "No, Lena. It costs lives." The next morning, Captain Mercer found me by the hangar doors. His smile was practiced, his tone surgical. "You're here to polish headlines for the Defense Directorate, not exhume ghosts." He stepped closer. "Don't make me bury you with them." I met his stare. "I've already been buried once," I said quietly. "And I learned how to rise." By afternoon, I'd traced his initials through a maintenance log, authorizing the skipped calibration on the thermal sensor array, the same shortcut that had once killed a crew. That night, I found a folded note inside my locker. The handwriting was shaky, almost desperate. "He screamed your name before the sea took him." The hangar wind moaned through the vents, echoing the sound of turbines swallowing flame. I held Eli Navarro's half-melted dog tag and heard his voice again. "Keep them flying." The second fire was coming. And this time, I wasn't running from it. They called me in for an emergency simulation test. Cadet Nolan Reeves would lead a mock engine fire scenario. I sat in the observer's chair, watching him flex over the controls, every gesture soaked in arrogance. When the alarm shrieked, red lights pulsing like heartbeat warnings, Reeves froze. He hit the wrong switch. The virtual aircraft spiraled into a simulated dive. "Dump the fuel! Kill the throttle!" I shouted. No one moved. I seized command, slammed the override, and the screen went black. The silence that followed was heavier than the roar that came before. "You just lost 3 virtual souls," I said evenly. "Don't make it 4 next time." Mercer appeared in the doorway, voice like a blade. "You had no authority to intervene." "Authority doesn't matter," I said, removing my headset. "Gravity does." By evening, I was summoned to a review board. The official report claimed the simulation data had been auto-deleted overnight. The black box file? Gone. Later, Lena Caro slipped into my office, eyes wide. "Ma'am, Mercer signed a data purge order 20 minutes after your test." That's when I understood. It wasn't a single faulty drill or careless pilot. It was a system designed to erase its own guilt. Outside, night settled over San Diego base, the runways humming beneath frost and jet fuel. I watched the lights flicker like ghosts, Eli's voice rising in memory. "Don't flinch, Quinn. Fire isn't the enemy. Fear is." I closed my hand around the dog tag. The metal burned cold against my skin, like truth, refusing to die. "Fear isn't the problem," I whispered into the quiet. "Letting it decide for you is." 2 days later, Lena Caro appeared at my office door, clutching a small USB drive sealed in a zip bag marked Archive, 2013. Her face was pale, her voice almost gone. "I found this buried in the Legacy Systems directory," she said. When I plugged it in, the screen went white, then words began to crawl across it. An Aerospace Safety Board report, dated 8 years earlier. Same aircraft model, same system, same defect. The final line hit like shrapnel. "Warning light malfunction, uncorrected due to supplier backlog." Signed, D. Mercer. The room seemed to tilt. Mercer had approved the same fault that had killed Eli Navarro, and he was doing it again under a different nameplate. I marched straight into his office and dropped the report on his desk. "You ignored this," I said. "Eli died because of it." Mercer leaned back, sipping from a chipped mug. "Eli Navarro died because he panicked. Don't turn your survivor's guilt into a crusade." "I'm not after revenge," I said, voice low but steady. "I just won't let truth die with him." He set the mug down. If you go public, the directorate will shut Skyguard down. And when they start digging, they'll find you, the one who lived. You'll burn again, Quinn. I turned before he could see my hands tremble. My phone buzzed in the corridor. An anonymous message. He screamed your name before the fire took him. That night, a knock jolted my apartment door. It was Nolan Reeves, pale, shaken. "Ma'am," he said, "I checked the simulator cache. The fire sequence was disabled manually. Someone's lying." For the first time, I saw fear in him, the kind that once lived in me. He didn't need to ask what came next. The fire was back. And this time, I wasn't walking through it alone. Lena met me later in the hangar shadows, pressing another drive into my palm. Her voice shook. "It's the black box copy. Don't let them erase this." On the screen, one line glowed like an open wound. System warning override, user D. Mercer, manual bypass, 2347. My pulse went still. He hadn't just ignored the fire, he'd lit it himself. If this story moved you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because in the next chapter, the fire Avery thought she'd escaped finally turns to face her. If I exposed it, the Defense Directorate would shut Skyguard down, and hundreds of engineers would lose their jobs. If I stayed silent, someone would die. At dawn, I went to Captain Mercer's office. He didn't look surprised when I told him I'd seen the override logs. He smiled, thin, deliberate. "I expected you would," he said. "That's why I planted a trace on your access terminal." He stepped closer, his voice low enough to freeze the air between us. "You enjoy the legend they built around you, don't you? The ghost pilot who rose from the sea." Then came the threat, quiet, surgical. "If you go public, they'll reopen the South China Sea inquiry. They'll find the memo that said you abandoned the cockpit before Navarro's death." He paused. "I still have a copy." My stomach dropped. Later, combing through the 2013 maintenance archive, I found a short entry. Initials, EN attempted manual patch to thermal alert circuit. Override denied by technical lead. Mercer had blocked Eli's fix, watched it fail, and let him burn. That night, the rain came sideways, heavy with the tang of jet fuel. The alarm tore through the base. Hangar bay fire. "Reeves is still inside," someone shouted. No one moved. I grabbed an oxygen mask and ran. The smoke hit like a wall of heat and metal. I found Nolan Reeves crumpled beside the control console, dragged him out as the ceiling groaned. We hit the concrete outside, both coughing, alive. This time, I didn't lose anyone. The next morning, the press called me Phoenix 1 again. The directorate launched a full investigation. Mercer showed up at the hospital, face carved from ice. "You think you've won?" he said. "I think I stopped pretending," I replied. "And I have witnesses now." His smirk cracked. Moments later, Lena Caro slipped a small black USB into my palm, recovered from the wreckage. Inside was the untouched simulator black box. When I played it, Eli's voice filled the room. Calm, resolute. "Dane, the system's failing. If we stay silent, we're complicit." Outside, snow began to fall. Soft, quiet, merciful. The blaze was gone, but the fire in me had never burned brighter. Now, Washington HQ waited. Another briefing room, another battlefield. The walls were white, sterile, rehearsed. Once they laughed at me in a room like this. Today, I'd brought the truth with me. The chairman's voice echoed across the glass chamber of Washington Command Headquarters. "Commander Quinn, do you wish to present new evidence?" I stood, the bandages on my hands catching under the sterile lights, and plugged in the small black drive. The screen filled with text. "System warning override. User D. Mercer. Manual bypass." 8 years ago, I said slowly, this same failure killed Captain Eli Navarro. Last week, it nearly killed Lieutenant Reeves. The error hasn't changed. Neither has the silence. Mercer shot up, color draining from his face. "This is fabrication," he barked. "Then verify it," I replied. He sneered. "You can't prove intent." "I don't need to," I said. "Negligence is enough." Then I pressed play. Eli's voice filled the room. Rough, steady, unflinching. "Dane, the system's failing. If we stay silent, we're complicit." The chamber went still. Lena Caro rose next, her voice trembling but clear. "I authenticated those logs myself." The doors swung open. Nolan Reeves entered, arm in a sling, shoulders square. "Ma'am saved me from the fire he caused," he said. Cameras turned. Mercer had no words left. The chairman stood, saluted once. "Good to have you back, Commander. Phoenix 1. In that stillness, the weight finally lifted. They'd called me a ghost once, but ghosts don't vanish. They wait for truth to find light. 3 months later, the directorate suspended Mercer and froze every Skyguard renewal contract. His name vanished from the plaques lining the corridor. Lena stayed on, promoted to Chief Systems Engineer. Reeves completed his recovery and was reassigned to North Dakota Flight Operations, where the sky stretched wide and unbroken. They offered me a corner office in D.C., a title carved in brass. I turned it down. Titles don't save lives. Instead, I returned to Denver Flight Academy, to a smaller hangar that smelled of oil and dawn. There, I built the Phoenix Protocol, a training program with one rule written across every manual: integrity before image. Weeks later, an email from Reeves arrived. "Ma'am, I stopped trying to look perfect. I just try to be good. Thank you." He'd signed it N. Vector Reeves. Vector. One letter away from Navarro. One life ahead. That night, I walked past Mercer's old office. Empty now. On his desk, a single photo remained. Mercer and Eli, smiling beside their first aircraft. Beneath it, the words, "Trust the system." I smiled faintly. "Not anymore," I whispered. I picked up the photo, brushed the dust from the glass and whispered, "He warned you, Dane. Maybe someday you'll understand. We don't protect systems. We protect lives." I set it back on Mercer's empty desk and turned toward the door. Outside, snow fell soundlessly across Washington Avenue, each flake catching the dim winter light like a quiet absolution. A week later, an internal directorate memo circulated through the network. At the bottom of the Phoenix Protocol header, someone had added a single line: "In honor of Captain Eli Navarro and Commander Avery Quinn, for teaching us how to fly through fire. They say heroes are made in war. They're wrong. Heroes are made in the silence that follows. When the world forgets your name, and you still choose to do what's right." Dawn over Colorado stretched like the slow exhale of a promise. The air above the Rockies was blade-sharp, cutting clean through the lungs. Inside the cockpit of the newly rebuilt Skyguard 1, everything was stripped bare. No corporate crests, no mottos, only the steady hum of turbines and the rhythm of my own pulse. "Skyguard 1, cleared for takeoff." "Copy that," I answered. The engines roared to life. Wheels left the runway. The world fell away. At 20,000 feet, the first light broke over the peaks, molten gold spilling across the canopy. My hand brushed the small, scorched dog tag bolted beside the flight console, the one that had once rested against Eli's heart. It wasn't a relic anymore. It was a compass. He was still flying with me, not as guilt, but as guidance. They once said, "Real pilots only." Turns out that's exactly what I am. Not because I flew higher, but because I didn't stop when the fire came. I banked left, slicing through thin clouds. The wings caught the sunrise like metal dipped in flame. Below, the Rockies burned gold. Not destruction, but revelation. For a heartbeat, the whole world glowed as if on fire again. Only this time, it wasn't consuming me. It was lighting the way forward. The smoke was gone. What remained was clarity. Eli's words came back softly. Get them home. It was never about the mission. It was about finding your way home to yourself. As I climbed higher, the scars, the noise, the years fell away. The sky stretched endless and forgiving. For the first time in a decade, I wasn't escaping. I was free. If my story reached you, don't let it end here. Tell me what you'd have done in my place. Would you have spoken up, even when silence felt safer? Leave your thoughts below. I'll be reading them all. Because this isn't just my fight. It's every moment we choose courage over comfort, truth over approval. Subscribe and stay with me as we keep flying forward. And remember this: fear will always walk beside you, but it doesn't have to lead. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to look away.